G'day, it's Phil Bridge here with Dilip Rupa. We're here tonight to talk about the QR code court case. I'd like to kick it off with, and I think it'd be appropriate to cue up a video of the reporter from TV NZ, Andrew, as evidence for the Press Council to make an urgent ruling on whether TV NZ or the Herald reporters should have their press passes withdrawn. So we'll cue over to that right now.
You know how TVNZ and them covered it up? You know that you covered up, TVNZ's been involved in covering up about the treaty and the true jurisdiction of this country? Even during the flag referendum? Are you aware of that? No? Probably not. So, if you want to know who I am, that gentleman knows, I'm right on the corner there.
Yep.
Okay, Dilip Rupa.
Thanks,
Look up the complaints about through TVNZ BSA on Dilip Rupa, and see if you can do a report on that. Then we'll know if you're telling the people the truth. So you're on News Hub. You're.
Get the glasses off my way. Need these off.
Yep.
Turn the tables on me. Getting me on camera.
Yeah. No, it's just that this is what whether you're actually covering the story properly or not.
What's that?
I'm just seeing whether you're covering the story properly or not.
Right, okay.
Especially TVNZ, they've always avoided issues. So you're going to cover the issues properly, or you're going to do your normal stunt?
Pardon?
You're going to cover the story correctly, or not worried about
We're here
it?
to cover the story correctly.
Yeah, you sure? Okay, we'll see in the future. I'll have it on tape.
Welcome back. So it's Phil Bridge here with Dilip Rupa. So Dilip, if you'd like to just kick off with how this started, you sent I believe you sent a letter to someone before all this sort of court.
Well, my main concern with the QR code started quite far back, but the problem is Nikki Kay, who was the Auckland Central MP, resigned, and then there was the election and great fuss over that, and we didn't have a MP until Chloe won the election, and I started emailing her, and here's the emails. They went to the Green Party policy, they went to both the co-leaders of the Green Party, the lawyer in the Green Party who only stands up for rights if you're Iranian, and Chloe, my new MP, who didn't have an office. In fact, I invited her to have a meeting at this very table in this cafe, so we could have shortened the time span, but to no avail. The point is, the matter was taken and put into court, and it should never have been, for the simple reason it was in a constitutional process. Now, if we as people allow the courts and bureaucrats to move a constitutional concern that we have into a court, that is wrong. And any judge worth his salt will say, no, this matter needs to be thrown out.
Just for the layperson, which is most of the public listening there, why would you say that's wrong, and what's the difference between constitutional law and the court system?
Well, the fact is that if you have every right to question legislation, legislation is not allowed to be part. There's processes. The parliamentarians who pass the legislation. You have rights to object to the legislation. We didn't have the right to object to this legislation. There are no safeguards. This is my main concerns.
Right.
And you know, I now have an MP who is as useless as an ashtray on a Harley. And truly, I mean, to say, you know, she hasn't got a brain, and that's why I'm angry, because she has no morality for the fact that she doesn't even understand that I'm her constituent.
Right. Do you think that maybe she's? Oh well, I don't. You know, I know this is terribly unwoke to say it, but do you think she's a little bit young, a little bit inexperienced?
She's got two party leaders, James Shaw.
Right.
They're both ministers.
Yeah.
Mirama Davison. They're both ministers.
They could all advise her, right?
Well, hey, what are they? That's hardly what you'd call leadership. And
Right.
you know, this is, you know, if we're going to have idiots like that making our legislation, of course I'm concerned.
And you forwarded those emails to James Shaw as well, I understand.
James Shaw, all the Green Party leadership, and the so-called lawyer who protects our rights, as long as you're an Iranian apparently, but doesn't care about people who are, you know, New Zealand-born people.
Right.
And Chloe, you know, hey Chloe, you're only not even 300 metres away from this cafe. You can walk down here.
I heard tonight that I couldn't believe it, that tonight she's doing some sort of show or.
Well, that's more important, you know. It's so important.
Yeah.
You know, but she doesn't care that I've had to spend a night in the cells, and I'm standing up for this stuff, and she doesn't give a stuff, and that's really, you know, and she'll be jumping out and about the gay parade, but she doesn't get what the point that I'm making about the QR code. If you can see, my QR code is pink with a pink triangle. Now, the funny thing about it is, I had the QR code, and we have got the QR code, Rufus has got the QR code, and I won't go into elongation of it, but this photo was taken by the Herald, of the newspaper article that the Herald reporter wrote, and it's a Photoshop taken from a great distance, because I never knew that it was being taken, and they never took a photo or presented that photo, which is on the same side as where they took this photo from. And the point is that they never asked and never questioned what the reason for the pink is, and for the pink triangles.
And so Dilip, do I mean, I'm aware of the answer, but just for the viewers watching, Well, Chloe,
at the first public meeting where I interviewed that reporter, it was the first public meeting for the 2020 elections at the Freeman's Bay School, and she jumped up and saying, you know, I'm going to stand up for your rights, people, and but obviously not people like me. I'm probably the wrong people that she wants to stand up for. She only is going to stand up for people that she likes, and that's not right, because when you're a constituent MP, all your constituents matter. Yeah. And the point is, this is a constituent matter. This is not a matter that goes before the court. And the court has, and the judge needs to make a ruling, because it's been to the Minister of Justice, Minister of Courts, and to the Minister of Police. And they have been, the only thing that's come out of that is that they forced disclosure. And this is disclosure from WorkSafe. And what's so important about this is that in the disclosure, it's not until item 31 that it mentions that an email was sent to them. But what's really important is that the first item was about the serving of an affidavit for me to come to the court. Well, I actually gave a counter. I actually gave a counter document so for him to ensure that it went before the judge. And obviously it did not, and nor is it mentioned in the affidavit.
And that
but
was
the
video.
But the point is that was videoed anyway. So.
Right, and I've seen that video. So, so that's not actually mentioned in that document.
The affidavit doesn't mention that he was given a document to give to WorkSafe and for the court.
So that essentially is that WorkSafe has misled the court.
Well, not only has WorkSafe misled the court, but the fact is that TVNZ reporter has not even asked me any questions or didn't want to interview me afterwards, and I sent him an email saying that I didn't want him to do it. I actually wanted Simon Dello to do it because Simon Dello knows law, he understands constitutional matters, and also he used to live around the corner from here, and he's experienced.
So Simon Dello is actually not only experienced and a lawyer, but he's familiar with.
Well, we knew each other quite a while back when he used to stay down the road from the cafe.
So he would be the natural.
He knows the place.
He'd be the natural choice.
Well, the reason is because clearly this Andrew guy is wet behind the ears, and is totally outside his depth, and that was evident that he is biased towards WorkSafe because he's acting. You know, if you watch it. And not wanting to even have me interviewed shows that he is totally biased, and that's why the matters I'm wanting to put to the Press Council, because this is not proper. Because we're in a democracy, plain democracy. We might as well be in communist China for the way that we have our reporting, and the Press Council needs to start making really serious stuff. And make sure that we have a fourth estate.
Yeah.
Because a fourth estate is very important.
Now, getting back to the server. So the person that served the affidavit on you, you informed him in that video that it was a constitutional issue,
yes.
a matter.
Well, WorkSafe has always been asked.
Yeah, and you gave him a rebuttal document or a.
Yes. I gave him an email that was sent even to the police commissioner,
right,
and to the courts, and also was sent to ministers and Chloe. Now, for Chloe to still, find time to do TV shows, shows that she's definitely not worthy to be an MP.
So
not a constituent MP.
Right. So, can I ask you, what is more important? Is it that our rights are protected or that they're not?
The most important thing is that we pull back our rights and ensure that we actually start having rights. One of the rights that are, if we're going to have equality in law, we need to start saying, well, if it's compulsory or mandatory that you have to show a QR code, well, then it should be mandatory that constitutional MPs have to give their constituent a clinic date within a certain time as well.
So just for the people out there that might not have heard about clinics, I mean, just very briefly explain what's a clinic.
A constituent clinic is when the MP, a constituent MP that's elected for an area, and if you're in that area, you have the right to go and see your MP. That's what they are. They're your representative. So they have to open their door and give you a clinic. A clinic means it's a period of time where you can go, you have an appointment, you have a discussion with them, and you put your issues to them, and they have to act on your behalf as the representative.
Right.
Constituent representative.
Yep.
Yeah. And Chloe has not done it. She just fails to do it.
Okay, so and just getting back to the media, how did you find the media coverage on the story?
Well, clearly, if you look at it, many facts were missed out. The TVNZ Andrew is, that's why I said, you have a newsreader who's been doing it consistently for a long time, who is trained in law and who understands constitutional issues. This guy's totally outside his depth, and has proven that he's incompetent in presenting the story fairly, and he's failed to comply with. I'm sure he's failed to comply with what the Press Council rules are, and if he hasn't, well, the Press Council needs to try and look at its own rules.
Right. Yeah. So, and what were you doing on the day that TVNZ One News, the day that segment was televised?
Well, the reason why I wasn't available was we've got two 12.5 metre holes right outside this cafe. They're doing a major sewage and stormwater drainage stuff here. It's been going on for over, I think, 15 months. It's not a minor work, and we were going to open up that week, but because of the smell and the dust and the noise, we didn't think that it was pertinent to do so, because hey, no one wants to come with that type of noise outside with a construction site, and it's been harrowing for all this period of time.
So,
but we thought it's summer. The school next door
So you just
is closed.
open a week later, right? Was that-
Well, we opened a week later
Yeah.
for the simple reason that, hey, it was smelling.
Yeah.
The smell was putrid.
Right. So it wasn't absolutely essential to get that story out that day, was it?
That's a question for Andrew to justify himself, and I think that the press council needs to ask him that question. Why was it necessary? What was the importance? And how was it news? It wasn't news.
But what was on that? Didn't you have a sign on the outside of the building saying that you were away for that?
Yes, we told them. It was clear because our customers needed to know as well that we'd taken an additional week off because of that, and that's what we did say. But also, what was in the window was the fact that you see we've got the QR code. We also have that there's timeline. Now timeline is a Google timeline. Now my wife and I, we went down to Dunedin, and we left Dunedin, and during that duration, which we travelled 1,200 kilometres in a car, yet we knew all the places we went to. But did we use this QR code? No, we didn't. And why didn't we? Because we didn't have to. Now, the whole point is, you don't need to use a QR code. And what is the purpose of a QR code being mandatory? See, is there a hidden reason? There must be a hidden reason. Otherwise, why doesn't WorkSafe say, hey, that timeline, hey, it's pretty good. Why don't we just use that? And
Right.
here's the point. Bernard Orsman, in a later video, we're going to be asking you some questions, but you've got this thing about the $6.4 million cost for the tracer. Well, Google's already got it. Why are we spending $6.4 million?
Right.
Ask that question, Mr. Bernard. The Herald reporters, you need to start getting your act together. I mean, you say, there's no reason, that's the reason you call Granny Herald. You're right behind the 8 ball.
So, did you feel fairly portrayed, and were you? We know you weren't interviewed, were you? So do you feel that you were fairly portrayed? Yeah, or?
What I don't like about it is that it's not about me. It's about everyone, and that anyone can be badly portrayed, and they most likely have been to date, but it has to stop now. People like the Herald Report and TVNZ need to be pulled apart. And we have a Minister of Broadcasting who is just an incompetent idiot. For knowing that this has happened, and he worked for BBC and TVNZ.
Right.
Chris, stop being such a lazy bucket, because that's all you are.
So, what would you have said if they had interviewed you in a correctly balanced news presentation?
What would I have said?
Yeah.
Well, I would have said, point one is, what's the reason WorkSafe demands a mandatory QR code when the same job is done by timeline? That's the first question, and that's the question that Andrew should have been asking WorkSafe. And the second question would have been, how come you've brought the matter before the courts and not told the judge that the MP for the area has not given her, this is a constitutional process, in process. And what right is there for you to take it out of the constitutional process and put it in the courts? Because I'm not acting criminally. There's nothing criminal about what I've done. This is Nazism.
Right.
This is not right.
Now
this is wrong. Until we have full disclosure.
That's a strong. Although it's a strong word. Why do you choose to use that word?
For a simple reason. I don't know. That's why I talk about the QR code and I've got the pink triangle.
Yeah.
Because during the concentration camps, The Jews had the Star of the Star of David. The gay people had the pen triangles.
Yep.
The gypsies, the mentally infirm, they had different symbols. Today, if Hitler was alive, he'd use a QR code,
Right.
because he wouldn't need to put the markings on anyone, because he can put it in the QR code.
Yeah.
That's what a QR code is capable of doing. I've got lots of information about the QR code, and what makes me is what a major concern for me is that we have all these church groups like City Impact and all that, and you come on TV. And they don't even look at.
They're doing absolutely nothing.
They're doing nothing.
They're doing nothing.
They are sitting on their hands, and they're not seeing, is this the mark of the beast?
Yep.
And we need to start looking and seeing, how is this all linked? Soon we're going to have proof that we've had a vaccine.
Yeah.
The QR code is another way of doing it. What at the moment it's that if you're a business, you have to have the QR code. But soon it will be that if you don't, I've got a report that on TV1 that, and by the same reporter, by the way, saying
Andrew.
saying that they're looking at bringing in legislation which will mean that if you fail to scan,
Yep.
you can be prosecuted.
Right. And I've seen an article recently as well, actually today or yesterday I believe, that China's bringing out a QR code passport, and they're wanting to make that mandatory.
This is leading up to what is known as the RFID, which is radio frequency ID.
Yep.
These are really serious concerns, and clearly Chloe hasn't got the brain power to think this far. Otherwise, if she did, she'd be saying, Dilip, I want an appointment right now. I'm going to raise this matter in the House immediately, and I'm going to demand that the Minister of Courts have this matter withdrawn from the courts immediately.
Yep.
And I will make press statements. She's not doing it because she ain't got a brain cell.
It's actually interesting as well, just going back a little bit, that you mentioned about Hitler would love to use the QR code, because back in that time they were using IBM tabulating machines to do all the counting, and that was the start of IBM, wasn't it?
Well,
or one of its major.
I only looked at the history on of how they use coding.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with a QR code in China, that you don't even use bank cards, you use QR codes individually, and you go to a business and your individual QR code pays the business the QR.
Yep.
In India, in Delhi, they're coming up with this fantastic new train system, and they use QR codes. Your individual pass is a QR code.
Yep. So I've had now, in other reports I've done and sent out there, and people have gone, you don't understand the QR code. QR codes were initially developed for the car manufacturing industry to ID car parts or something like that, which may be the case, who cares? And they're like, just a number thing, black and white serial, basically it's a barcode in a square format that could store a lot more information than a standard barcode. So, and they're like, well, that's what it is. It's like, yeah, but it's part of a system, isn't it?
Well, the QR code is purely the identification.
That's right.
But how it goes into filters into a system is another matter.
Yeah.
And that's where the concern is. And also how it can be manipulated, how it can be used, how you can block the use of a QR code. And the reason why I have this photo here, this is about my mum and dad. And if you come into this cafe, Chloe, when you do come in, I'm going to give you a tour.
Will you also give her a free coffee?
She needs to come down here with the so-called Iranian rights lawyer.
Human rights, yeah.
Well, no, I'm not a human, but she only looks after the rights of Iranians.
Now, Dilip, so can I just... why do you say you're not a human? What?
Because
has that got a meaning?
Well, hue means colour. I'm not the colour of man. I'm a man.
Yeah.
Pure
Yeah.
and simple.
Okay.
If the word doesn't mean is not defined correctly, I don't accept it. So I'm not human.
Right. Okay. So look, just
I'm a
give me-
man, I'm not mankind.
You're a biological man.
I'm of mankind.
Now.
I'm pedantic. Yes.
Hey, now, anyway, getting back on track, what do you think of the $50 million that the government has funded the media, which will be $75 million by the end of this year? What do you think of that?
Well, thanks for telling us. Well, that buys bias, doesn't it?
Right, yeah.
That does buy bias. I mean, so I know the reason why TV1 is biased towards WorkSafe. WorkSafe advertisers. I don't advertise on WorkSafe, but WorkSafe advertises on TV1, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
There it is.
Now, one other question that comes to mind, did you have the QR code at the time that the Herald photo was taken
Absolutely.
and the article was written?
Absolutely.
You already had it,
Absolutely.
and they wrote that article.
And they did not advise the public that the QR code was there.
Right.
They did not advise the reason why it's got pink triangles.
Yeah.
This is an inconsistency, and that's where the press council, hey, you've got a job, and you need to do it, and you need to do it urgently, because this is not proper.
Yeah.
This is improper. This is harassment. Incastilisation, sorry.
And just on, sorry to interrupt, just on harassment, now this is just something else that I've been made aware of, that on your Google page for the cafe, after that news article, but before you were open, because you weren't open that week, there was a whole lot of reports went on there, didn't it? I mean, it basically ruined your rating, or tried to. They tried to. You had so many good ones on there from prior times, and you've got such a great service level from reading it. You can read anything that's not this 1-star QR code comment. All the rest of the comments are pretty much excellent food, very clean place. So, but a lot of them happened the day of that Herald, or around before you were open anyway.
Well, we weren't open at the time, and that just shows you don't believe in the hype, because those you have some terrible people who go and do that, and they're
Trolls.
Well, character assassination, if it's done by TV New Zealand and the Herald, and other people are going to be saying, oh well, it's acceptable by them. Chloe doesn't give a stuff. Chris, the Minister of Broadcasting, and also the Minister of Justice and Courts.
Chris Foy.
Oh yeah, I don't like mentioning his second name. He makes me sick.
Right.
Because one of the
Why is that?
Last year during COVID, and we actually don't have pay wave. He would not get the pay wave fees. Waive it. Now, if it's so important that we have the QR code
and being contactless,
and isn't it more important to be contactless? Because the QR code, the EFTPOS machine will say, hey, you was there.
right?
That's evidence. It doesn't take that long for it to go click. Hey, these were all the people that came into this cafe and got stuff. It's instantaneous. Now,
For you, can I ask you a question? Now, realising that the world's been through thousands of years of pandemics and everyone survived, there's been enough people survive in each culture for those cultures to continue on, and obviously they've had some form of money in all of those cultures. Are you scared of touching money?
No.
Right.
No, for a simple reason that we have sanitizer. Our EFTPOS machine has sanitizer, but the fees need to be waived. I mean, say, I believe it's over $400,000 extra just in pay wave fees that the banks are getting, and the inconsistency of the outrageous fees that we pay in New Zealand and what they pay in Australia. Hey Chris, come on! You're sitting on your bum doing nothing. Clearly your brain's in the same location. Because if you did have a brain, you'd be saying, yeah, that cafe guy is right. I should have done something last year when I was the minister in charge of small businesses or whatever it was, and I should have told the banks, no, QR, contactless pay wave is more important than you getting your fees.
Right.
But oh no, not Chris.
Yep.
Hey, what is it?
Now,
We need to know. And hey, Andrew, why don't you go and ask Chris that question? That's a question that we, the public, need to know. Chris, why did you not do that? Which is more important, a QR code or contactless fees?
So getting back to TVNZ, so do you think that the TVNZ reporter and the Herald are meeting the standards of the Press Council?
That's for the Press Council to prove that they are.
Right.
And they've got a code of conduct, and instead of them being like Chris, they need to get up and realise that we live in a democracy. We're not in communist China. And you go, people criticise the media of other countries. Hey, look at your own backyard. As Yeshua said, before you take the speck out of someone's eye, take the stump out of your own. And Press Council, you got a big stump to take out, mate.
Right. So, what do you think that New Zealanders should demand?
Well, the main thing is Press Council will do its job properly and ensure that we have rules which protect the fourth estate and make it the fourth estate the fourth estate, so we have a proper democracy. But the most important thing related to this is that constituent MPs have a limited time to give a clinic to their constituent, and until that process is finished, no bureaucrat is allowed to put a matter before the court.
Just a very quick question, though, again, for people not very familiar with how things work constitutionally in a democracy. Could you define for us simply what the fourth estate means?
Well, the fourth estate is that you have the three estates, so you have the executive, which is the Prime Minister, Governor General, and the Attorney General, and under that you have the legislature, which is Parliament making legislation, and then under them you have the judiciary, and this is where the problem is. The judiciary is under the legislature. I was dealing with a matter in the legislature, which is a constituent MP. It should never have gone into there, and it's only because the judge was misled and the courts were misled. They were not informed that it was with the legislature.
Right. And so that's your three estates, and then the fourth estate.
And the fourth estate is to overlook them. That's journalism.
Right.
Journalism is to
true.
make sure that they are reported on. We don't have journalism in this country. We don't have journalism probably anywhere in the world. We have media, and that's where it's moved to, away from fourth estate to media, and now we have just ratbags reporting. And with what they've done with me, they are just real ratbags.
So do you think that there's some way? Why should they be funded? I mean, it sounds so. Basically, what you're saying to me, if I'm understanding it correctly, instead of being the fourth estate, looking into things as a journalist would and being balanced, they are in fact basically just propaganda. Would that be fair?
Hey, look, the word propaganda came from Nazi Germany
as well. Right.
Yeah.
True. So, okay, and so I've talked about what New Zealanders should demand. So really the Press Council need to really look at this.
Absolutely and urgently, because this is totally wrong. Totally, I'm a strong individual, but you can just imagine if I wasn't strong, I would be crushed by now, and that's wrong. To humiliate, to castigate someone, it's not proper, and it's totally unconstitutional. I'm looking at taking this matter up with the Governor General as well, because of the incompetence displayed by the ministers, all three ministers, the Minister of Courts, the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Police. And the Minister of Justice, I think, is also Minister of Broadcasting. Now he needs to look and say, hey, broadcasters, you need to sort yourself out.
So just closing, so your court case is on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday.
Yeah.
The 3rd, is it?
Yes, the 3rd of March.
At 10 a.m. is it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So what is your hoped outcome?
Justice, which is hard to get from a court system which doesn't know how to dispense it. And when we have a Minister of Courts and a Minister of Justice who wouldn't even know what it was if it hit them between the eyes. Because Chris, you're just a total waste of time, mate.
Well, let's wrap that up for now. And what's our next? We've got another video that needs to come out as well.
Well, the thing is this, is that, we have Bernard Osman, who's from the Herald.
Yes.
One of the biggest issues, he's making a big hoo-ha about, 6.4 million. How can we, first thing you can do is to look at and see why Timeline would have saved us $6.4 million, and also ask WorkSafe why haven't they looked into it, and what evidence do they have for it not working? And that's where the judge needs to start looking and say, well, we've got legislation here, but an alternative was offered, and so where is the necessity for people to be compelled, compelled performance? That is slavery. When we are when it's demanded of us to compel perform, we might as well not even have a vote.
Right. Powerful words to it. Right.
That's a powerful thing.
We'll wrap that up for now and get back to you guys with the next video soon. I hope you share and like and spread this around as much as possible, because this is the only media that's the real media. So
No, you're in the fourth estate.
the fourth estate. That's
The other stuff, the media is toilet paper, and that's what I wish the Herald was printed on toilet paper. Then we'd have a use.
All right, everybody. We'll wrap it up for now. Thanks.